Hi, I'm Jenny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. Welcome to Connections on Purpose. Whether you're here with us live on Zoom, joining us on Facebook, or watching later on YouTube, I'm glad you're here. This is your time to slow down, fill up, and connect with other heart-centered women who are making a difference in the world. I'm blessed to have one of those women with me today. Sandy Travis Bildahl is speaking on the fear myth, why being scared is the catalyst for the change that you want. Sandy is a best-selling author, certified business and emotional intelligence coach, motivational speaker, and creator of Bravery Becomes You, a life-changing system of personal transformation. Her 30-year background as an entrepreneur, coach, and consultant has led to her passion for guiding and inspiring others to enjoy and create a meaningful, satisfying journey to success, both personal and professional. Today, those same principles extend to creating a new story about empowered aging. She currently lives in Annapolis, Maryland, where she's also an artist. She loves the wonder of adventure, being scared, and living brave. And you can connect with Sandy on her website at braverybecomesYou.com. That text is in that website is in the text of this video, and also other ways that you can connect with Sandy on social media or with her books. Sandy, thank you for being here with us. I'm really excited to hear what you have to tell us today.
Well, thank you, and so glad to be here. And I want to start with a question, which is, would you like to share an egg? And you may be wondering, what would that have to do with the fear myth and being scared as a step toward everything that you want? And I'm going to get back to that in a minute because I have a different story that I want to start with. And that story really is about speaking, just like I'm speaking today. And I can remember in the very beginning of wanting to speak, I had, a lot of anxiety about it. And I was about to speak about bravery. And I was so excited about the opportunity. I was so thrilled that, bravery was now my subject. It really meant a lot to me. And it started to snow. And I found myself saying, well, maybe it'll snow so much that I don't have to do the talk. And immediately, for the rest of the day, I found myself saying, please let it snow, please let it snow, please let it snow. And I did catch myself and thought, if you're talking about bravery, isn't this kind of a strange thing that you don't want to do what you say you're so excited about doing? And so they didn't cancel it, and I did speak, and it was great. And I did get to experience bravery for doing what I did, which to me is always just an incredible feeling. So once I did that, it's made me start thinking about, like in the past, a pattern that I used to have where I would get up in the morning and immediately, as I opened my eyes, I would have so many ideas and so much excitement about what I wanted to do with whatever project I was working on. And so, of course, then I have to have coffee. So I'd get up and get my coffee, and my husband was usually sitting there because he gets up at some ridiculous hour in the morning. And so I would share what I was excited about. And usually he had some kind of opinion. And I would think, well, I'm not sure I like that opinion. And, you're poking holes in my joy. But I thought, well, I'm just going to ignore that. I'll just put it in my mind for later because I'm so excited about what I'm going to do today. And then I'd look at the clock and I'd think, oh, I have a half an hour. I'm just going to take my time and I'm check the news, which now when I do that, it's like I'm going to check it just for a second because I just want to know what's going on, but I don't want to feel so bad that I have to figure out, maybe I'm in danger and I need to run for cover today. But so I would do that, and then of course I had to check my email and see if there were any business things I had to respond to, because of course you have to do that right away. And then of course I would also see an ad for a store that I like where it was 70% off. And I think, oh, that thing that I want, I have to go look at that because, if I get that thing, I'm going to look like a completely different person. I can't possibly miss the opportunity for that. And so then I'd finally look at the clock and think, oh, wow, my half hour is already gone. I better get to this exciting thing I can't wait to do. And then I'd think, oh, you know what? That thing my husband just said, I think I need a little more research. I think I'm going to go look at a YouTube video for a while because I know there's just something I'm missing. Somebody's going to have the answer that I need. So now I would do that. And so eventually I got to the point of, because self-awareness is something you have to develop. So I've learned to have some amount of self-awareness where I said, what are you doing? And I knew right away, well, I'm procrastinating. And why am I procrastinating? And why am I worried? And why can't I just go to my desk and get started doing the thing that I can't wait to do? And what became very clear to me is that all my doubt and all my procrastination had to do with fear. And I was afraid that first I'd get to the computer and, oh, there's that technology thing. So it'd probably take me 45 minutes how to figure out how to open the document that I wanted to work on, which seems to, happen all the time. And then there was, well, what if that great idea I have when I want to put it down on paper is flat? Maybe it's not even a good idea. And I don't want to ruin the joy of, this wonderful thing. And so there were just all sorts of reasons why I was actually afraid to go do the thing I want. And it's kind of like, what happens to that brave enthusiasm when you actually have to, do it? And so all that kept bothering me. And I thought, well, shouldn't I be smarter than this? This has happened so many times. It doesn't matter if I'm writing something when I began or I'm writing something today. It just still comes back. It never goes away. All those doubts and things are just still there nagging me. And so I thought, again, shouldn't I be brave enough? Don't I understand this? I mean, I wrote a book about bravery. And, there I was accepting an invitation from my 24-year-old son to go on this camping trip and sleep in the middle of nowhere. And I finally said a very shaky yes to doing it and found myself face to face with real fear and also the fear that's just running in the background of my mind. And I never realized how much it was running in the background just on autopilot. And then there was also, physical danger fear that I was facing. And but at the same time, I was also having amazing experiences overcoming all these fears and being brave day after day after day. And yet I was having experiences like, driving on a road through, really rocky road that felt like I was on the experiencing the worst turbulence of any plane ride as I looked over the edge and saw the crumbling edge of the road and trying to imagine how I was going to survive when we went over the edge so that I didn't die. And and then just being sleeping in a tent in the middle of nowhere. And just as someone said, well, when you get up in the middle of the night, when nature calls, just beware of the snakes and the scorpions and the bears. And it's like, oh my, okay, well, I guess I have to get over that because here I was, I didn't really have much choice. So but the interesting thing was that because I kept being brave over and over again, I found myself one day saying, you know, do I like camping? Like maybe I like camping. Could I be getting used to being scared? And so I thought, me like camping? Well, this is an interesting thing to think. And then that led to the day where I woke up one morning in the tent with, sand in my sleeping bag. My shoes were wet. We were about to go take the first shower bath for a week in freezing cold mountain water. And I unzipped the tent, I looked out at the blue sky, and I just asked myself a question that has just changed everything, which is, could I wake up scared and love it? Does bravery actually feel good? And so that set me on an experiment to say, I know all this. I've just experienced it. Why do I come home and I'm still feeling all those same patterns? I've got to figure this out. This is ridiculous. And because bravery feels so good, but what about fear? What is this actually doing and why is it doing it? And how is there any way to change this? This is just, I don't like it. And so, uh, uh, it was an interesting position to be in because what it made me do is it made me be as passionate about fear as I was about bravery. And so um, the first thing this is what I did. So the first thing I did was look at what is fear. And I quickly realized, and I'm sure we've all heard this many times, is that fear is biological and that it really comes from cavemen who had to be, or maybe cavemen and cave women who had to be on alert because they might get eaten by a lion. And so you think, well, that's long ago. I mean, does that still have to apply? And the fact is, yes, it probably does need an update, but it applies just as much as it did back then, except we're not dealing with lions. We're just dealing with our own fears. So because it's biological, there's not any choice. It's going to happen. It's going to come up. There is really no way to around it. And what it does is it has what's called a negativity bias, which, so whenever you want to do anything, it's going to come up and say it's going to scan for what you should be scared of. When you want to take any risk, like you want to grow, it's going to say, well, you know what, that might not be a good idea, you might fail, and all the things that we say to ourselves, because fear does not like any kind of risk. But fear has a one-track mind, and it only cares about keeping you safe. It doesn't care about your happiness. It doesn't care that you want to grow. It just wants to keep you safe. And so once you realize that, I mean, that's just a very powerful thing to know about fear. And, and I've heard that so many times, but I thought, well, I don't want to accept that. I mean, there's got to be some way around that. Again, aren't I smarter than that to be able to figure it out? So then I began to think more, and this is what I came up with, is that every time I'm afraid, I get a signal. I feel uncomfortable. And I don't like that feeling uncomfortable. And fear knows that. So it just pulls me back over into the comfort zone and says, why don't you start tomorrow? You don't really need the stress. You can just wait. You maybe need to do again a little research. And that just keeps doing that because your brain also wants to choose what feels easiest and what feels best. So it's like when you don't want to eat a piece of cake, sometimes your brain will say, but that would feel really good to eat that cake now. And that will override, well, I can have a piece of cake some other day. Right now, that's not what I want to do. And so because it feels good right now, it's hard to resist and it's very easy to get pulled into the comfort zone. So what I realize is so that fear has a signal and that discomfort. And it's like, alert, alert, you're about to do something and I don't like it over here. And, it's kind of like, well, alert, alert, this is not a smoke alarm. I mean, I'm just making toast. I mean, we don't really have to get that carried away and stop me. But realizing that it was a signal, and what was interesting is since I love bravery so much, and I always felt like, well, all I have to do is be brave and that'll override the fear. And once I do it enough, I'll just, fear won't matter. And when I changed that around and I thought, thank you. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know I have to be uncomfortable. And that is a sign. I just have to get used to being uncomfortable because, as we've often heard, everything you want is on the other side of fear, but it's true. So that was the first thing I learned about fear is that it's just a signal and it doesn't have to be a stop sign because in the traditional myth of bravery is a stop sign. So that's the first break in the fear myth. Then the second thing is that we all have so many obstacles and sabotage, and those are hard things to get to because they're in your subconscious, and your subconscious is something like 95% of what you do during your day is on autopilot, which is coming from your subconscious. And it takes a lot to really get to it and change it. But if you listen to the words that fear is saying to you, there are so many clues in those words. And a lot of those clues are from your childhood or from, your experiences. And so that's where my egg story comes in because my mother used to say, in the morning, would I like to share an egg? And everybody in my family thinks it's hysterically funny. And I've also loved that story. And I am very good at knowing how to share an egg if I need to. It is possible. But I loved it because it was from my mother and I knew it came from the Depression. I totally understood why she said it. And, but I finally realized she was passing on her fear of not enough and how to survive and you don't need more, this is fine, you just need half an egg. And so I realized, how many times have I done things where when I finally get to a point of feeling like this is going to work, something in me sabotages it. And maybe that's one of the things to say, you don't really need that, you could settle, it's more comfortable not to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. You've already done enough. You have half an egg. What more do you need? And so that was a big wake up call that I could just say, well, I love that story from my mother, but that doesn't have to be a story that's within me that is guiding me. And I have another one from my father who, whenever I'd be really excited about something, would say, what would you want to do that for? And so, which was interesting because he was very entrepreneurial. He was always doing something new. And, but I realized that is from him. I want to do what I want to do. I don't really need to answer that question for him. So it's just fear gives you the opportunity to listen to those words and ask yourself, where are they coming from? And then the third thing is that all the times that you've had failure or you felt disappointment or you've had setbacks, those are all in the database of fear, and fear knows everything about you. Fear knows exactly how to push your buttons and make you stop. But again, that's an opportunity once you look at fear in a new way, is it's an opportunity to say, how you, and you usually feel that it's like, oh, I feel scared about that I might once again experience failure, and who wants to feel that, and who hasn't felt that many times. But it's also an opportunity to say, yeah, I felt failure, but what did I learn from it? The failure made me who I am today. It made me resilient. It made me strong. I don't need to listen to I don't need to listen to that and have it stop me. I can listen to that and have it help me say, yes, I'm going to go. So once I learned those three things about fear, I thought that just totally breaks the fear myth for me. And I love fear being a signal instead of a stop sign. And so once I came up with all that, I thought, oh, what about poor bravery over here? Doesn't bravery have some biological power? And what I realized when I thought about that is that bravery is a part of you. And you know bravery or have natural bravery, which is that call that you hear to be more and to step into what you want, um, and to listen to that over and over and over again reminds you that you can be brave. And the fact of having to work at being brave makes it unique. It makes it you, whereas fear is just one track. It probably has the same fear signal for everybody. But when you have to create your own brave identity, which ultimately, ends up as confidence and as an amazing feeling, it's unique to you. It guides you in your own unique path. And so what this whole thing changes that instead of having conflict of fear, you now have confidence. So from conflict to confidence. And and then once you have that, you realize, well, then you think, how do I keep uh, having fear grow? Because fear needs to become as strong as that fear message, so that when fear shows up and you have that sign, you say, you know what, I really know what I want to do, my because this feels so good over here. I don't have to have the feel good cake thing, like, oh yeah, it feel really good to eat that cake. I can say it feels so much better to be brave. So how do you do that? And I have three sort of brave map kind of ideas. And the first thing is to say yes, but not the typical yes you might think of, but little tiny yeses that go with your resistance. So whatever you're resisting is to come up with something you can do to be brave, but so little that you know it's actually going to happen. Because if you choose something really big, you're just going to add to the database of fear that's going to say, "Oh yeah, oh there you are again. You don't follow through. I told you that was what's going to happen." And so. Um, so let's say you want to journal. So maybe every day you journal for 15 minutes. Maybe you want to start exercising. Well, maybe you just try for 5 minutes to exercise. And if you have something every single day that you're doing, you're having an opportunity to continually say, wow, I kept my word. I was brave. That feels amazing. And what you're doing is you're building your own database of bravery, and you now have evidence and you now have proof. And so all the doubts that fear can bring up, you've now built a different answer. I can trust myself. Look what I've done with being brave. And then once that starts happening, the next step, of course, that comes in is fear, saying, "Oh well, I don't care what you're doing over there because I'd like you to stop because I don't want you to change." But now you're beginning to build, this trust so that you can talk back to that and say, "Well, I understand why you're concerned, but I'm getting stronger over here, and this really, again, this feels really good. I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to keep going." And thanks for the warning, thanks for the reminder, thanks for the signal that I'm doing something that's making me grow and it's making me feel more confident in pursuing it. I don't, thank you. And then the last thing is that once you build your bravery, now it's time to take the braver action you want for the bigger things that you want. And again, doing that, it's still a good idea to do them in a smaller, manageable way. And I remember when I was growing up, I was playing the piano, and my nana had something she wanted me to play, and I didn't really want to play that piece, but I'd play it fast and I'd play it loud, and it was really kind of a disaster. But I didn't want to disappoint anyone, so I was taking piano lessons, and uh, I had learned something the week before, but I hadn't practiced, so I just erased the lesson, which I don't know why I didn't think anybody else would see that that's what I'd done. And became clear, I just don't want to disappoint anybody. That's a driver. But then when I was in college, I took piano again, probably to make my nana happy. But this time the teacher said, play it as slowly as you can until it's perfect. So all of my rushing and wanting to be good immediately changed because that it worked. It was fantastic. And now I didn't really have to please my nana because I was pleasing myself, that taking it slowly and in manageable steps uh, just worked. So so what do you do with all of this, and how do you keep this going? Because now you are building bravery, so it's just as strong as fear, but you need to keep that going. So here's what I suggest to do that. And again, I like things to be fun. So, I think this is a pleasurable way to do it, is that every day when you wake up, you think, what is something I'm resisting? And what is one really small thing that I know I can do to be brave? And then do it. But it could be, I need to make a phone call. I need to send an email. I need to do a little bit of research. I need to do something. And then at the end of the day, check in with yourself and say, you know what, I did that. And then once you acknowledge that, you add to it, and that felt great. Because to me, nothing feels better than being brave. And so that's kind of part of the bravery message to me. And so if every day you keep confirming that, your bravery just keeps growing and growing. And then I have three other things that are kind of like making a list. But one is, and I did this recently, and I just thought it was so different, is that we all know how powerful being grateful is. But in this one occasion, I just wrote what I was grateful for about me. And, I felt like, oh, that's kind of self-centered. I mean, what about all the other things? But I looked at what I'd written down, and grateful for kindness, grateful for strength, grateful for helping others, grateful for my ideas, grateful for being brave and standing up and trying things. And so I love that list because it reminds me about what I like about myself. And then the second list a third list, and these two are kind of similar, is one, to just keep a list of everything you've ever done that was successful. Could be a dinner that you cooked, it could be a paper you wrote, a job you were in, but just to remind you that you have been successful a lot. And it's so easy for us to forget what we have done, and how we should really feel proud of ourselves. And that again strengthens bravery. It's proof. And the third thing is to write a list, which you can just keep going with, of all the things you failed at, all the things that were disappointing to you, all the things that didn't work out. And in that, to have two columns. And on the other side, write everything you learned from that, how that made you stronger, how maybe you were a victim and you decided you didn't want to stay in that place, and how you pulled yourself out of that. Or, it's all the things that stopped you, that made you who you are. And why would you want to forget that? Because you really have learned a lot from failing. You don't need to have failing stop you. You can have failing help you. So to me, the final thing is thanking fear for saying, thank you for sending me a message that I'm changing. I'm on the right track. You wouldn't be sending me a message if nothing was happening. You're sending a message that says, go, wow, yay, you. You don't have to stop. This is great what you're doing. And then, thanking fear to say, thank you for helping me with obstacles. I wasn't even aware about that story with my mother and my egg, but now that I see it, wow, that's a part of me for a very long time, and I can see it in a different way. And then thank you for bringing up all those failures that I've had, because now I've had a chance to see how those failures were really impactful, and they're probably one of the most important, those things are the most important things about my success, because now I can trust how strong I am. And then the final thing is, after all of that, to actually say a big thank you to fear. And then always remember that nothing feels better than being brave. That's it.
Wow. Wow. Sandy, that was so good. There's so many nuggets in there. So a lot of people looking down, probably taking notes like I was. Ladies who are here with me now, would you unmute yourselves and let's just show Sandy some love and applause and yays and that sort of thing. So
Thank you.
Thank you,
Woo!
Sandy.
thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for
Yay.
listening.
Wow. And everyone here with us on Zoom, well, I always say that. All of you who joined us live or are catching the replay, thank you for being part of this amazing community. Be sure to check out Sandy's information in the text of this video. And if you'd like to get more involved, join us for future Connections on Purpose gatherings on Zoom or in person, or explore the On Purpose Woman magazine. Just visit opwgc.com, and that is also in the text of this video. You'll find inspiration, connection, and opportunities to grow both personally and professionally, all while staying true to who you are. Until next time, stay inspired, stay connected, and stay grounded in purpose. Thanks for watching.